on this, the day of Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, our Torah reading on Shabbat is Parshat Vayeshev, the Torah reading that finds Jacob now settled. Vayeshev means and he dwelled, settled in the land that he had returned to after 20 years of exile, and with a full family of 12 sons and a daughter. Introduced in our Parsha this week is Joseph. And Joseph will be the focus of the Torah readings from this point to the end of Genesis. More chapters dedicated to the life of Joseph than to Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob and his wives. Joseph. And so what I'd like to do in this, the teaching component of our service, is focus a little on the life of Joseph and link it to Hanukkah, because as we just celebrated with Hallel, this is a day of many lights, the lights of Shabbat candles and the lights of Hanukkah. And with the help of Cedar, we're going to do a couple of the Hanukkah songs, some of which you may have heard last night, to add to our sense of celebration. Our Torah reading would be two Torahs this day. The first, Parsha Vayeshev, and then from the book of Numbers, a description of offerings brought in honor of the sanctuary by the princess, in that Hanukkah is identified with the tabernacle and the offerings brought to build the tabernacle. Though I will add as an aside, the linkage between Hanukkah and the giving of gifts, that's not in the Bible, that's not in the early writings, that's something that came much, much later, probably due to Jews living with other holidays that they had to compete with. But back to our focus of Torah and Haftorah. Two Torahs on the on the Shabbat of Hanukkah, and then the Haftorah from Zechariah, with the closing line, Lo b'koach v'lo b'chayil, not by strength, not by power, might, ele beruchi, rather with my spirit. The Mar Adonai Tzvaot said, the God of hosts, will you be successful in the various battles that you have in life? The last few weeks I've been doing bibliodramas, and I've done Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so today, in part linked to the darkness of Hanukkah, I'd like to do a short bibliodrama of Joseph at the end of Parsha Vayeshev in his moment of darkness. I'm 28 years old. I was 17 when my brothers, when they took me and they put me into a pit. They took that beautiful coat that my father had given me and stripped me of it and left me there while they, in the cruelest of moments, sat at the side of the pit in which I sat, pulled out lunch and ate. That may have been the most painful moment of my life, my brothers abandoning me and getting on with life as if what they had done had not mattered a whit. And from that pit, from that darkness, these last 11 years have been a series of dark moments. There I was, sold into slavery into the house of Potiphar, who worked for the Pharaoh. And there I was successful. You see, Potiphar trusted me with all that he had. And I felt as if I had the reign of his home, except for the one thing I could not control, and that was Potiphar's wife. who seemed to not only take a liking to me, but sought to seduce me. And when I refrained from her enticements, she started to scream, and the cloak that she held in her hand, she claimed that I had given to her as part of an undressing to try to rape her. And so here I am in jail. Years have passed. Min hametzar karatiya. From this confinement I have called to you. V'merchavya. Anani v'merchavya. God, answer me from a place of openness. What shall I fear? I prayed to God. What can a mortal do to me? And yet, here I am in another pit, a jail. And here too, somehow, I have prospered. I have gained the trust of others. I am in the VIP section. You see, in the section in which I have risen as somebody who has demonstrated an administrative talent, even in this dark jail, it is with no less than the Pharaoh's prisoners that I am with. I have sat in these recent years with his wine steward and his baker, and where I had the power in my youth to interpret my dreams, a gift from God to understand the vision of power. Here, I have just interpreted dreams for the wine steward and for the baker. And yet, it is darkness. For although the wine steward returned to work with Pharaoh in his day of celebration, and the baker was hung, I have asked the wine steward to mention me to those with power, that I have this gift from God, to whom I pray, min hametzar karatiya. From this narrowness I call to God. Anani v'merchavya. Answer me into broadness. And yet, here I reside in darkness. I now emerge as Joseph as we transition to Hanukkah. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, we as a people have lived lives that were foreshadowed by those of our ancestors in our sacred text. As Joseph indeed would be known as Ish Matzliach, the one who was in so many ways successful, he too knew from darkness, from narrow constraints, and yet we do know that he would emerge, and he would emerge to new heights. But in the moment of Hanukkah, in this moment, our Torah reading finds him in the pit, unsure of the future. And on this day of Hanukkah, we know, God, that with your Spirit, we have been able to move forward fearlessly. And so, some songs we now sing.
Thank you, Rabbi. Our insert during the Amidah was Al HaNisim, for the miracles. As Rabbi taught last night, a 9th century prayer. I'm giving it a 21st century interpretation, arrangement. Al HaNisim ve'al HaPurkan ve'al HaGvurot ve'al HaTshuvot ve'al Milchamot she'asita l'avotenu bayomim hahem bazman hazeh. Al HaNisim ve'al HaPurkan ve'al HaGvurot התשועות ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה, בימים ההם בזמן הזה, בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
Those are words that are part of the insert for the Amidah, for the miracles, for the deliverance, for the victories, for the triumphs, and for the battles. You, God, fought for our ancestors in those days and at this time. In the insert, Al Hanisim, there is no mention of human heroes. There is the sense that there's a partnership, but the focus is on God, responding to initiative and enabling for victory. But as we move forward in our Jewish history, with the rise of the yearning to return to the land of Israel, a new focus of Hanukkah emerged, that of finding heroes in our day that would allow us for victory, that we would take an initiative looking to the Maccabees. The next selection,
Mi Yemalel Gevurot Yisrael Otan Mi Yimne Hein Bechol Dor Yakum Hagibor Ha'am Shma Bayamim Ha'im Bazman Hazeh Maccabi Moshia Ufodeh Uviamin Kol Am Yisrael Yitached Yakum Vayigael. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Heart in Israel's ancient land in days of yore, the Maccabees the temple did restore. But now all Israel must as one arise, redeem itself through deed and sacrifice. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid.
the songs of Hanukkah add joy to our celebration, give it context, and require updating. Because our lives are ever changing, but the yearning remains the same. The last of our Hanukkah selections is a parody that Carl wrote a couple of years ago, and listen carefully, and it'll sound very contemporary.
This is a song by Bernie Weissman with a pen name George Weiler. You'll recognize the melody. It's the most wonderful time of the year. I'll be frying up latkes while wearing my gatkas and drinking a beer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the happiest season of all. With those young Shana maidels spinning their dreidels and having a ball. It's the happiest season of all. Well, I must be assuming you're gonna be zooming your holidays candles aglow, telling Hanukkah stories and tales of the glories of Maccabees long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. We'll be lighting our candles while they're singing Handel's Messiah Divine. It's the most wonderful time. Let's make Kiddush with wine. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Thank you, Carl. And as is my normal way, I conclude our teaching with a short prayer. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, in each day there are moments in a 24-hour period in which there is indeed darkness, but in darkness the stars become brighter. And so there are things one sees both in darkness and in light, and yet we wish for, as those stars burn bright and the sun burns by day, may our hope continue to come from you, our source of light. May we look forward with hope. Amen.